President Biden's response to the terror in Afghanistan evolving since last week as thousands of American citizens and allies are desperate to escape Taliban control. Joining us now to discuss, General Jack Keane, Fox senior strategic analyst. General, wonderful to see you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I first want to just go through a couple of sound bites from the president before and after yesterday's attack and what he might do about or what he should do about the attack. Let me play the tape and get your reaction. Roll tape.
No one's being killed right now. God forgive me if I'm wrong about that, but no one's being killed right now. We made clear to the Taliban that any attack on our forces or disruption of our operations at the airport will be met with swift and forceful response. We will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay.
So how should the president follow through on that last promise?
Yeah, well, he's making a statement that any president would make under such a horrific attack on our troops that we all bore witness and testimony, and how tragic that is. And our hearts certainly go out to the fallen families of our troops. It's a sad situation for sure. Listen, David, this is a much more challenging situation now. There's no doubt that the intelligence services of the United States and our counterterrorism forces will focus on going after these guys, just as we did for the leaders and culprits of 9/11, for those leaders who ordered the attack on the USS Cole, who took down our 2 embassies in Africa in the late 90s. All of those people are dead. And we'll pursue this with that kind of vigor. But, and it's a big but, these folks are in Afghanistan. And the reality is we have nobody on the ground. Wow. We've just pulled out our CIA bases. We've just pulled out 7 military bases. We don't have any connective tissue to the Afghan people themselves, who are they were our eyes and ears along with the security forces. All of that's gone. So this is much more difficult. The UN has just come out and said, in Afghanistan today, there's 8,000 to 10,000 foreign terrorists who are not part of the Taliban in residence in Afghanistan today. This is going to grow, David. We all said this was the reason for keeping a modest force there, to keep focused on international terrorists and particularly the Al-Qaeda, who now have a bona fide safe haven once again. It's theirs. The Taliban are running the country, and these are their brothers. It's going to be much more challenging to get at this.
And because we pulled
ISIS threat.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, because we pulled out our bases and particularly Bagram and all of our assets on the ground, et cetera. We have to rely on the Taliban. And the Taliban, I'm not absolutely convinced that they have no contacts with ISIS. I don't know about you, but they certainly had no trouble letting them all out of jail once they took over city after city.
No. Listen, as much as the Taliban and ISIS have had their disagreements, and it has a little bit to do with their own theocracy, the reality is the Taliban is not going to help us find ISIS. That I can guarantee that's not going to happen. We have a growing menace on our hands. The world is a more dangerous place as a result of these decisions that we've seen unfold, and certainly this hasty withdrawal and the debacle that it's caused, and a concern among our allies is certainly something we'll feel the consequences of, David, for some time to come.
You know, the president came out yesterday and suggested, of course, he's been getting a lot of criticism, that he went against some advice that he not withdraw Bagram Air Base so soon, that we round up all of the Americans and all of our assets that we possibly can before we're without a military on the ground. He countered that with the following statement. Let me roll tape from yesterday and then get your reaction. Go ahead and play tape.
They concluded, the military, that Bagram was not much value added, that it was much wiser to focus on Kabul. And so I followed that recommendation.
If that's true, that the military, and he wasn't specific, he just said the military writ large, actually recommended pulling out of Bagram. Do you think that was good advice?
Well, I doubt that was actually the case, frankly, because the president, sadly, has misrepresented the advice he received once before. Remember, he made the statement that nobody opposed his withdrawal decision that he made back in April to take all the troops out of Afghanistan, when indeed it is a fact that the entire military chain of command, from Secretary of Defense Austin all the way down to our commanders in Afghanistan, were opposed. So was the intel services and many of our allies. So I can't take the president at face value, sadly to say, because he misrepresented the facts once before. This much I do know: it is a fact that the military was attempting to get our Afghan partners and American citizens out as early as May. And believe me, if they were going to do that in May, they would have used Bagram Airfield, not the Kabul International Airport. No way would they have used that facility, because it's much more in a bowl. It's more difficult to secure, in a sense, because it's sitting right inside the city environs, where Bagram Airfield is 25 miles outside the city. It is a sprawling place. It goes 30 miles across, and it would take more forces to secure it. But you're actually much better protected there, and you can control the routes in and out of the place much better than you can sitting right in the middle of a city. So they would have used that, David. That's a given. They would have used Bagram Airfield, but the State Department told them no. They didn't want to start the evacuation that early.
So it was state contradicting the military. Specifically, is it too late, General, to retake Bagram? I don't, there have been a lot of suggestions that of all the bad decisions that have to be made over the next couple of days, that might not be the worst of them.
Yeah, it's too late. It's not going to happen now. The president has made a decision to get out on Tuesday. That's going to happen. We will leave American citizens behind, tragically, and thousands, I think, possibly tens of thousands of our Afghan partners. That is where we are. And we're likely beginning additional reduction of our troops. They're probably not going to tell us what those numbers are, nor should they, what's happening. But the egress is beginning to take place from the Kabul International Airport. That's a fact.
Now,
we'll try, as the administration is saying, they're going to try to get as many people out as they can. But it's shameful, and it's a betrayal to leave these folks behind and consign their welfare to the Taliban. I mean, that is absolutely what we're doing.
I remember very well the hostages in Iran. That was but a fraction of the number of people we're talking about now, and all Americans just hung on every word of information that we had about those hostages. It was less than 1,000, and in this case, we are talking about multiple thousands of individuals that could be held hostage. One final question about whether and how the terrorists that are now in control there, how that might spill over outside of Afghanistan. The president has talked a lot over the past couple of weeks about over-the-horizon capabilities for tracking terrorists in Afghanistan after we leave. Do we really have that option, particularly, as you mentioned before, since we've lost all of our ground spotters?
Yeah, this is another misrepresentation. We have 4 other places where we're tracking and focusing on radical Islamist organization, either Al-Qaeda or ISIS, because they have the aspiration to kill Americans. That's Iraq, Syria, we're on the ground. That's East Africa, we're on the ground. We also have, obviously, air power to use. The other place is Yemen. We did have a soft base there, Special Operations Force base, but the Houthis ran us out of there when they took over the country and ran out of friendly government. But we're close by. We're in the vicinity of. It's classified actually where we are. But we go in there and we kill the Al-Qaeda terrorists who have aspirations to kill Americans. That's what we do. Those are the 4 places where this has taken place at. The 5th place we wanted to be and retain was Afghanistan, because of the growing menace there if the Taliban ever took over. We will have to do that from over the horizon. We're talking about coming at it likely from an aircraft carrier at sea. Afghanistan is a landlocked country, and also coming from the Middle East. That's the air power. But the actual tracking of it tracking of what's happening with the terrorists, we've lost that, as I said before. So that is the number one issue. If we know where they are and we have good actionable intelligence, we've got the capability to go to that spot and kill them. But the problem is, where are they and what are they doing? That tracking, that intelligence function is what we have lost. And it's what we still have in those 4 other places I'm talking about that the president at times references as examples. But the most profound example is what we have lost in Afghanistan. And sadly, I think we'll likely pay a price for it down the road.
Well, and we're only 4 days away from losing it all, Kabul and everything else. General Jack Keane, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.